Hello, Flat Earth researchers, debaters, and debunkers. This is a frame from some wonderful footage taken from a video made by James Mann, where he's filming the sunrise. I can't remember where from, but it's just the reverse of a sunset, really. But it's spectacular because it comes up with these clouds right in the center of where James is looking across the water to capture this sunrise. So when I look at this, it makes me think about the dichotomy that we face and the different way that such a scene can be interpreted depending on presuppositions. And so it's a good opportunity to really try to in some ways clarify what the whole flat earth exercise is about, because it's an exercise in being able to re-evaluate and totally detach from everything you think you know that makes you see things a certain way, and then see it in a completely different way. But then the ultimate goal is to be able to see both. And you know that one or the other is possible to see. And that's, in a way, that's the goal of the whole thing. Once you understand that, you can then be even more detached from any particular model. You can be very much free of any preconceptions. So the whole going through that process of breaking down the heliocentric model, which is basically made up of a whole bunch of assumptions, and there's an explanation for everything we see, right? And whether it's the sunrises or the distance to the stars and the sun or the horizons, whatever explanation or observation that we make, there's an explanation for it. Of course, one of the main things is satellites going overhead. That doesn't mean they're going, if satellite is orbiting, it doesn't mean it's going around a globe. There are many other ways within the realms of physical possibility that satellites and other objects can be going around and around above us, above a level Earth, much like things being stirred around in a teacup. I'm not going to venture into the possible physics now, but the point is, we are able to perceive an infinite number of possibilities. Of course, the dichotomy we face when it comes to the globe Earth or flat Earth is, which one is it? And if it's this, then give us a model, give us an explanation. Well, no, that's not the point. This is an inner journey that brings us to this realization of how much we believed, yet how little we knew. And it also, to me personally, when we can see this sunrise, or it could be a sunset, you wouldn't know, would you, unless you were told, but it happens to be a sunrise. When you see this sunrise, you can perceive at least one of two things happening, or you could perceive it in at least two ways. And that, of course, is that we're on a spinning Earth, and that's going around the sun at the same time, and the rotation of the Earth is what gives us day and night, and we see the sun, in this case, rising because we are rotating on our spherical Earth towards it. Or it could be the other way around if it's a sunset. Of course, the other way that it is seen from a flat Earth perspective is exactly that. What we see is a result of perspective. And the reason I pointed out the clouds is because, you could look at this two different ways as well. Let me just bring up this image on the right hand side. This is called, well, before I say what it's called, if you haven't seen this before, you probably have, but if you haven't seen this before, you are looking at it and immediately seeing one of two things. You're either seeing a vase in the middle, or you're seeing two faces facing each other. with the nose and the mouth in profile, like portraits. So, bang. Once you can see both now, but you can't see both at the same time. Once you know that there are two images contained in this one image, and that either way there's a choice on how to look at it, it goes back and forth in your mind's eye, doesn't it? We know that there are two images there once we've sussed out what it is. The Rubens vase, or vase if you're from the US. But that's what this picture is called, the Rubens vase. But of course it's meant to be an optical illusion. It's either a vase or it's two faces. We know it, but in our eyes we can only see one at a time. That's how our mind does it. Although we have that knowledge now that this image portrays two completely different images, we can only see one of those at a time. The vase, you either see the vase and you look at it, or you see the faces. You look at the vase, you don't see the faces. You look at the faces, you don't see the vase. Yeah. But it's a wonderful example or comparison of what we see on the left here with the sunrise and the clouds. And so if you are on the globe Earth belief, or of the globe Earth belief, I suppose you would probably perceive that those clouds in front of us at the horizon. This is an extremely zoomed in view, by the way. This is quite a wide scene, so I'll put the link to the video in the description. But if you're a globe believer, and that's what you interpret sunsets and sunrises as doing, then I suppose you would see that those clouds there in the distance that are lit up by the sun are following this assumed curvature of the Earth, and then they are disappearing at the horizon as the atmosphere curves around the Earth. But of course, from a different point of view, we understand that when we look at the sky and the surface, the further away something is, the closer it will appear to that horizon, whether it's dropping down or coming up. So, of course, we can see this as flat clouds that appear to be sinking down to the horizon due to perspective. And so that's also what you can see the sun as doing beyond it. But of course the sun is much higher, much further away, and it does the same thing. It comes up from the horizon, comes towards us, goes overhead, and then goes down towards the horizon in the same fashion that you see these clouds appearing to drop down to the horizon. But personally, I can see this in both ways. Just like the vase on the right, I can see this as evidence that we live on a globe, but I see it as much more startling evidence that we can relate to, that the sun goes away from us because of perspective and leaves us on a level Earth that doesn't have to be moving in order for that to happen. So to me, I understand. And I'm sure a lot of you do also. Anyone who's been through this will understand that what we see can be interpreted in different ways. And to me as well, this is a revelation in the inner journey. So, okay, you get to this point where you realize that you could have been duped into believing that we live on a globe because of everything we've been told. You realize that no one can actually prove anything unless they start referring to pictures from space. And then, of course, we have to assume that we are being told the truth there. And it's understandable that it is also a leap of faith. Either way, it's a leap of faith to believe that people went to the moon and we're doing stuff in space. This would make the whole globe science appear to be valid. But of course, I understand as well that it's a leap of faith to have this understanding or realization that those pictures and those stories that we've been told could well just be mythology and used to uphold the existing belief in a globe. It's of course difficult to wrap your head around at first, but it's an exercise. You see, you have to be able to put aside. It's not to deny, it's not to ignore the evidence, it's to be able to put it aside and really go back to that the root, the essence, the innocent perception, as a Buddhist friend of mine likes to say, the innocent perception in which we are not labeling anything, we just see it for what it is. You see a flower, but you don't call it a flower in your mind. And that's actually very, very difficult to do. So it is a challenge. It's hard work. It's easy to say, oh, you're talking rubbish. That's ridiculous. Scientists have known it for years. That's easy. Then the easiest thing to do is to go along with the mainstream narrative. But the most challenging thing to do is to break free from that and be free of any attachment to it. So this is the thing that I see with a lot of those people coming in to defend their belief in the globe. I know that they are going through that internal struggle, really trying to deny it to themselves. Deny the obvious that becomes apparent once you detach from those beliefs. So as long as you're trolling and saying everything that we see is evidence of the globe and it's been proven for years and I'm never ever going to even think about what other possibilities, then I know that you're just seeing either the vase or the faces. You're not seeing both. You're not allowing yourself to see both. And that's quite tragic, really. But back to my point, this becomes a realization that's quite esoteric, because then we realize that what the luminaries and our whatever we see up there is telling us is that this realm that we find ourselves is totally open to interpretation. And so we can never really truly define it. It's probably impossible. But of course we have this desire to find out who we are, where we came from. We long to know. But how can we know? How can we ever know how any of this started? Scientists and mathematicians will have all these theories about a Big Bang. Where? A Big Bang where? Talking about the universe starting and exploding into existence from nothing? We all know that that's not something that we can perceive or even assume is any kind of reality. It's just a story that has been cobbled together, and then you've got things like redshift and expanding universe. And there's an interview years ago with Patrick Moore where this person is saying the whole idea of where the stars are and how far away they are is based on this redshift theory. And if that redshift theory is wrong, which he had evidence to show it was wrong, then the whole model per se falls apart. Yeah. So it's a realization. Once you can see the vase and the faces in the Rubin vase image or optical illusion, and once you can see how a sunset can be, or a sunrise can be interpreted as because we're on a globe or because we're on a level earth with perspective, once you see both, then you realize that this is a message to you that it's pointless to try and seek answers beyond what we see and experience. We simply can't get there. We can't, there'd just as well be no space to speak of. Space is a concept. But that space is not contained in anything. It's as far as the human imagination can go. But we have to deal with that. We have to realize at some point that there's a limit to our knowledge. And there's a limit to the knowledge that we could ever truly gain about our existence or the origins of our existence. It will always be stories. And we can't time travel. It's not a thing. time travel is just not a thing. And again, this is something that the Western mind might well have. I'm sure there are scientific projects that have been where billions have been spent on trying to do time travel. I just don't believe it's possible. It's just not meant to be, because we are meant to be focused. So this gives us a message. What are we meant to be focusing on? It's pointless trying to find out where we are. It's pointless trying to find out who we are. So then what? Yes, your whole universe falls apart when you have this realization that we don't know where we are. It's quite terrifying. So it's quite terrifying to let go of any belief. Even if you've fallen head over heels in love with the flat earth, ultimately you still have to let go of that. And so it's just a journey. It's part of the journey. It's a message to us saying, there's a limit to what you can know. Deal with it and get on with living in the present and with presence. It all works. Everything there is working. The sun, the rise, the moon, the seasons, all that. It's all there. It's all taken care of. You don't need to mess around with anything. We don't need to change anything. We don't need to be seeding the clouds with things to stop the sunlight coming through or worry about global warming. We just need to let it be. It's all being taken care of. Our job is to maybe nurture it a little bit more if we can. And then have the experience we're supposed to have. All right? I've been interrupted now, and I think that's a wonderful time to say thank you very much.
Click subscribe and the bell icon if you'd like to receive notifications of new videos from Phuket Word.